The issue of authority is important in any religion. Who governs the religious community? And looking at the Christian church, we can see several major phases of the shifting of authority in the Christian church. Of course, we can say the authority starts with the teaching of Jesus of Nazareth, whose authority is acknowledged with his title Christ, the Anointed. And so the believers following Jesus believed that he was the Messiah predicted by Jewish scriptures, and his authority was a charismatic individual authority. After his death, there was turmoil in the Christian community, as James, the brother of Jesus, was acknowledged by way of heredity to take over the governance of the church, and he did so by announcing that Jewish law was still in place and that Christians were required to become circumcised and follow Jewish food laws among many other of the 612 or so laws in the Jewish tradition. Paul the Apostle, however, claimed that the authority for the Christian church was Jesus himself, who, as he claimed, appeared to him in a vision on his road to persecute Christians in Damascus. After his awakening vision, then he began to see, in his view, that the Jewish law was no longer in effect, and that Abraham, the founder of both faiths and Islam, was saved, as he claimed, by faith and not by following the laws of God, but rather faith in God and complete obedience to God. So using that argument, he establishes his own communities and himself was persecuted not only by Jewish people who saw this as a heresy, but also by other Christians themselves, who likewise thought it was heretical to abandon the authority of the Jewish law. In time, Paul will spread his form of Christianity with rule by a local episcopus, an overseer, who would run the day-to-day affairs of the church and the services, as well as being part of administering the economy of the church. The episcopus becomes then the dominant figure throughout the Roman Empire as the churches of Paul the Apostle win the game, we might say, and the Jewish Christian churches die out with the failed Jewish revolt against the Romans from AD 67 to AD 70. In time, the role of the episcopus will grow in stature, and these episcopi, these overseers, become then known as bishops, and in some cases they emerge as military governors and powerful, influential people, even in secular politics. As the centuries wore on, then we see the bishops grow in power, and after the sack of Rome by Goths, Vandals, and Visigoths, and the destruction of the traditional power of the Roman emperor, the Bishop of Rome becomes then the prime ruler, really, of all of Western Europe. In the meantime, the Eastern Church, known today as the Orthodox or Byzantine Church, maintains the old tradition of the equality among bishops with the democratic system. By 1054, with the increased power of the Pope of Rome, as he claimed, first among equal, in 1054, the Patriarch of Constantinople and the Bishop of Rome excommunicate each other and thus leave no formal, real authority in the global church. As the power of the popes increase and as bishops serve even as generals and military governors in Western and Northern Europe, the Germanic peoples of the north grow weary of paying taxes to Rome to build the beautiful cathedrals and to continue to support the power of the popes. And thus we have the famous scene from Martin Luther, a Catholic Augustinian monk who has decided he's had enough. And he turns, looking towards Paul the Apostle, to Jesus Christ and the New Testament as the authority for the Christian. Martin Luther will nail his famous 95 Theses to the wall, declaring essentially that the authority for a Christian is faith in Jesus Christ, and also known only through the New Testament, the Christian Bible. His actions would lead to what amounts to a European civil war with maybe 100 million deaths that continues even to this day in Northern Ireland and a few other places. In turn, he will inspire more extreme Protestants like John Calvin, who will cut the sacraments of the Christian church from 7 down to 2 and create a church even more decentralized sometimes, with the authority residing in the power of the elders of local churches reading the scriptures on their own. Henry VIII, in turn, will like to have gotten a divorce, was not thrilled to pay taxes to Rome either, to build the beautiful cathedrals, and so we have those three major Protestant divisions along with the Amish and Quakers, who will look to individual inspiration as they seek their own very direct personal relationship with Jesus Christ, though again often with the elders of the local church as the authorities. Of course, in the last 4 centuries, the authority of the Christian church has been challenged by another big one, the rise of science through the Renaissance and Enlightenment, which will challenge the virgin birth and many other miracles, and will even apply its own scientific principles to understand who this Galilean mystic, Jesus of Nazareth, really was. So with that and the contentious issues of evolution and science's answers to when life begins, we see perhaps the greatest authority threat to the Christian faith. It's worth mentioning there is now a World Council of Churches, and this involves the actions of Catholics and Orthodox and Protestants working together, but with only a persuasive authority. They can vote and discuss issues, but the member churches are not required to follow or obey those pronouncements. So in short, that is a brief view of authority in the last 2,000 years of the Christian tradition.